Welcome to Perspectives from Ayara. Today we're bringing a leader perspective with Srinivas Vemuri. Srinivas is the SVP and Chief Operating Officer at Forces, leading its cloud solution practice. He has extensive experience in leading business strategy and transformation, especially in transforming quote-to-revenue cycle at several industry-leading companies that are Forces customers. As with all of our conversations on Perspectives, today's conversation is led by Aditya, who is our Chief Product Officer at Ayara. Over to you, Aditya.
Thank you, Karan. Srinivas, welcome. I'm really enthused to talk to you. You definitely are a leader who's witnessing the front lines of all things order to cash. It's not vendor specific. You guys are talking about business strategy, revenue lifecycle transformation, and of course, very, very deep coverage of technology in the space. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So in revenue lifecycle, right off the bat, help us talk, about your modern paradigms that you're seeing at your customers and how you're advocating and advising companies as to how they manage the transformation that you may be seeing.
Hey, thanks, Harkaran and Aditya, for having me. It's a great question. The revenue has been a paradigm which is replacing a lot of older context to quote, contract, and in billing and other areas as well. So a lot of companies are now calling them as revenue operations or revenue lifecycle itself. So as things are changing, we have seen these changes from time to time. As things are changing, how we see as a revenue life cycle, all the time, right from the beginning, the revenue was always started from the quote. Basically, that's whether the quote converts to order or not, but the revenue is determined during the quote or a contract. That's where the beginning. So the cycle continues with the fulfillment and ordering and billing cycle, and then eventually the revenue is reported during a finance and closure. So though revenue as a term has been perceived to be a finance term right from the beginning, that they have to finance us to comply with the FASB standards, but revenue origination is always been from a sales cycle, where quote or a contract is created. So that's how we see as an entire revenue cycle, as the revenue is determined in the beginning, and the revenue progress, the transaction progresses through the orders and billing and recognition life cycles with different terms that are applied. Your revenue changes from time to time. So that's how we see the entire revenue.
That's great. Thank you. Because I think, with obviously the sales, the focus on one-time revenue yielding to, complexity in revenue, what are the typical challenges in, that companies see in transforming their quote-to-revenue life cycle? Strategically and as well as tactically, operationally?
No, absolutely. I think there is a lot of transformation. You have to go back almost 20-25 years, where most of the products are sold with mostly perpetual licensing or perpetual cost. So when you sell some product perpetual, the kind of revenue recognitions are kind of simple, it's pretty straightforward. There's not much emphasis on the reporting has not been a challenge during those times. Now with all the mixed product models or go-to-market models, there's added a lot of complexity to the the revenue recognition as well. For example, entire whatever we see today is all on subscription economy. So as every product, every service is going through a subscription cycle, it also created a lot of complex monetization models as well. Companies are evolving right now though they want to get from a legacy sales model to a newer subscription models, they're also evolving on how they can actually have to monetize their products and services to their customers. It's becoming very complex from time to time, and with the usage and things are becoming innovative. They're creating newer models, how they can create newer monetization schemes to the customers so that their penetration is easier and faster to the customer. What we have seen is though in the entire process, revenue is what it ultimately matters for the finance teams. It is often neglected when they're trying to have these easier penetration models, subscription models to the customers. So that eventually puts a lot more burden on the finance teams for them to actually recognize the right revenue on the product services they sell to the customer. Okay, so that is if companies start to adopt revenue during the initial parts of their life cycle, that's where I think Salesforce, Conga, other companies are spearheading this revenue life cycles. then it might be easier for them to adapt to the new, at least address the revenue problem right at the beginning, and then it's make it life is little easier for the finance teams to report revenues later on.
No, I agree. I want to flexibility in something that I buy, and then I want to pay for what I use. I absolutely agree that even us, all of us as customers, appreciate that sentiment, right? So obviously, the retaining the customer experience, and then again driving the product and the pricing models, that introduces additional complexity and of course, transforming existing product and services into newer models. So what does this mean to these new set of people who are entrusted to worry about revenue as well, right? So the finance is not only waking up at night. Again, sales and the customer success have seen all kinds of go-to-market changes. How do you think they are dealing with these changes from the customers that you?
I know. I think the buck stop with the sales, right, all the time, right? So, the thing is, I know the sales organization has to go through a lot, right from the beginning, right? So, their ultimate goal is to generate revenue, they have to keep the targets, to keep the ball rolling all the time. So there's a lot of pressure on sales, and adding more pressure, it is a cause of concern for every organization. Right. At the same time, if you look at the sales, the evolution, right? Though in the beginning, almost a couple of decades back, 20 years back, we see sales selling the SKUs. We have seen most of the coding tools having single SKUs, where it's easy for making the sales to sell to the customers, and keeping the single SKUs has become challenging for them, and they started modifying these SKUs, and the challenge is mainly for the manufacturing operations or the provisioning operations, where they don't know what exactly have to be provisioned to the customers. So slowly the BOM structures are slowly pushed to the sales side, and with the help of sales engineers, sales is able to create and complete those configurations. So they learned how to configure even the products, though. Some of the complex manufacturing companies, it's very difficult for any salesperson to actually configure it completely, because it's hard to understand their options to the chassis, their options, and all the attributes and everything. But still, with the help of sales engineers, they are able to complete during the sales cycle. That removed the pain point for manufacturing completely. Not how to actually identify the right components that have to do manufacturing and ship it to the customer. So that's the first transformation sales went through, actually creating the sales BOMs, sales configurators, right, and complex configurators during the sales cycle. Similarly, pricing. The pricing, there are the challenges are not just the list price. There are so many types of discounts. It could be a customer discounts, or partner discounts, or any other contractual discounts that there have to be applied. Though pricing operations was very hard. It was difficult for them to actually look at what it makes for them, once the code is created, applying all these discounts on part of the thing, and then additionally the additional manual discounts. It's very difficult for the pricing operations. Again, that has come back on sales side, and make it easier for the finance operations team. The sales operations took that additional role of looking at what's going to be, how they have to adjust the discounts and still able to close the deal. So there's the second transformation that the sales took it, and they've driven it very well. And the third is legal operations, legal contracts. Sales doesn't have to worry through any of the legal terms and contracts that are liable for the company, but still. Those are all again pushed as part of the proposals. So they have to comply through the all the non-standard terms and conditions, and then they understood what are the legal processes, and they have adopted through their sales operations team as well. So from time to time, the entire sales and sales operations teams have taken a lot from the back end to ensure that the back end looks safe. I think it's easier for back office teams to perform their operations easier. And what we feel the revenue is the last and final piece of the puzzle that has not been addressed in the sales cycle. So I feel I think I'm very confident sales teams will adopt revenue, right? Though it is very tough for them to understand the rules and that govern what the entire revenue process. But with the help of again the tools and and the finance operations team, with some additional features and functionality on the code itself, they'll be able to pass this stage of understanding revenue as well. So I'm very confident that once we have some of these features evolved, as things are evolving, they'll be able to adopt, understand, comply with the revenue, and then it's making finance or control or revenue operations teams life much easier and other cycle. So the transformation is not new to sales. They've been taking a lot, right from the beginning. This is the one last thing that probably they need to adopt to, but that's inevitable.
Srini, I'm a finance guy, but I think that perspective that you just added is great, because obviously I think all of us agree that sales are the heroes. Again, in our respective settings, right? They lead this change. But I think your comments on them leading from a product complexity, pricing complexity, and contractual complexity, right? That's a very unique perspective. Thank you, because I think probably that describes about a 20 or 25 years worth of transformation that these teams have dealt with and taken on. And it's really encouraging for me to think that they are ready for understanding the critical drivers that they won't let the accounting complexity deter. But as long as I think that we definitely are building the tools and the tool sets to kind of enable that, enable them to make that better decision making. And so I'll definitely speak from that point of comfort. But it's definitely gratifying to think that the sales teams, from your commentary, are ready to, take that on. But so you're right, revenue is not a headache. It's no longer a, secret magic that only some people have to. It's definitely, we are proposing and big proponents of, that cross-functional, ownership of revenue goals. So this is really helpful. I'm really thankful for your time today. And back to you, Karan.
Thank you for your insightful perspectives. Yeah, thank you, Srini, for your time. Up next, we will be having a fireside chat with a panel of experts on perspectives covering the emergence of a sales and finance partnership in achieving revenue goals. Please watch out for that next week. Please tune in and share with your networks. Let us know additional topics of interest to you or questions you may like to see answered. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.
Hey, thanks, guys. Good day.